people with well water. Water coming out of the ground is high in iron, high in minerals, and stuff like that, correct?
Yes, correct.
So it has that metal taste.
Yep.
Somebody said, oh, let's figure out a way to scrub that taste away so you can just drink the water like the city water. It's treated. There's things that, they clean out of it, but water coming out of the ground has all that in it. Is that basically what we're at?
Yeah. I mean, we started off originally water softeners were to get rid of the calcium, the hardness in the water, and iron for well water.
So hardness means minerals or
minerals. It's kind of, if you look at the end of a faucet or at your shower head, you see all the white crystallization build up.
Right. Some green, a little bit of that.
Yeah,
some
that's going to get into the pH.
The schmutzy, yucky.
Yep, exactly. But back in the day, city water, they used to be, hey, your city water's fine, and the well water is all you got to worry about treating. But
okay,
things have evolved.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense to me. Okay, so the water comes out of the well, gets pumped into a tank. How does it? What's the give me the one step at a time.
Yeah, on well water, basically what happens is you have a well tank, and you have your well. The well tank essentially is the holding tank for the water that gets pumped out of the
50 gallons, like a hot water heater system. There's that big bladder looking thing.
Yeah, it's a big bladder tank.
How much water does it usually hold? 20 gallons?
You can get a good average is 20 gallons. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And then so the well comes out of the ground, pumps it up into this tank, and that's where it holds it. And then when you turn the faucet on upstairs, it calls for water, and the tank pushes the water out of the bladder.
Yep.
And then where does it go next?
Basically it goes up to your faucets. If you've got no filtration, that's going directly up to your faucets.
What about this? But if we put a water softener in, it comes into the tank. Where does it go after the tank?
Yeah. Now what we end up doing is if we're treating it, if you've got high iron, if you have arsenic in the water.
So you test for all that?
We test. So what we end up doing is we'll come out and we'll test.
Okay, great.
And then water treatment is really a la carte. So you can decide, and what we really excel at is we work with our customers to find out what they're looking for.
Okay, good.
I have some customers that just are like, get rid of the rust. I don't care about anything else. I drink out of the hose still, da.
We all drink out of the hose.
Exactly.
Can you recommend that today?
You know what? With everything they've learned, probably not a good thing, but we have those customers and we're happy. We'll cater to whatever. And then we have customers that are very
OCD, crazy, wacky doodle.
I call it very educated. Yeah. You're very educated. You know what's coming. If you've got arsenic in the water, it used to be they never looked at these measurements of contaminants. Now they're looking at them, and you're dealing with arsenic. You're dealing with PFO, PFAS.
Yeah.
You're dealing with
all that stuff, crazy chemicals that have letters instead of the full word because it's so goddamn long.
100%. So you don't know what's coming out. We've been terrible stewards of our
well, industrial waste. They didn't know they were pouring all these chemicals. Oh, throw it in the river, and then it would leach down into the ground and then into the groundwater, and then we'd be drinking. And next thing you know, I'm growing 11 fingers. I'm a polydactyl man.
I think you look good with the 11th finger.
Yeah, right. An eye coming out of my forehead. Cancer's running rampant on people, and they're like, "Oh yeah, it's coming from the environment."
Yeah.
And listen. Global warming, we're not going to talk about, but environmental waste reduction and pollution reduction, I'm all about.
Yeah. And I think, listen, there's our municipalities, a lot of people now are doing a lot of good things to change that. Unfortunately, it's a little bit too late. I mean, back in the day when we didn't have paved roads, when you're on some of these country roads, I mean, it wasn't too long ago. Some of these mile roads were all dirt roads. What they used to put down on driveways, oils to cut down the dust.
Of course.
Over the rain, over the seasons, it leaches down into your drinking water. And before you know it, we're dealing with contaminated water. So those are the issues you run into. I mean, I don't want to scare anybody, but these are realities.
Yeah. So why not spend a few dollars and clean your water?
And that's what it comes down to.
Over time, it makes a huge, huge difference.
When you can actually put purified water, the same quality of water, when you buy a good quality water at the store and it's labeled purified by reverse osmosis, and you're paying $1 or $2 per bottle if you're buying them singly, or if you buy them in bulk, you're still maybe close to $1
so
on
a case of water at Costco.
You know what? I'm not too sure. Obviously, I don't buy water. I don't need to.
Well, if you do something similar, like in my house, I have a faucet in the kitchen. I have the reverse osmosis.
Yeah.
I have the ice Good morning. This is Hire It Done. My name's Adam Helfman. Welcome to the Hire It Done Radio Network. If you're first tuning in, this is the radio show that teaches you, the homeowner, how to fix, repair, or remodel everything within the four corners of your lot. We're not a do-it-yourself show. However, I want you all to know I am not anti-do-it-yourself. I'm just pro do it for me, because it used to be that your checkbook was the most important tool in your toolbox. That's right, my friends, but not anymore. The most important tool in your toolbox is time, because time is the new currency. And you don't have a lot of time. You work, you have your house, you got responsibilities. Hiring a contractor, you should be able to hire the right guy properly, get it done right, while you're doing something else. If you have to do it yourself, learn how to do it. Like me, I am worth minimum wage from the neck down, okay? From the chin up, I make my living. And I know a lot of people are like that. Some people say, oh, I'm going to paint my room, I'm going to paint my house. Yeah, okay, great. You can do that. And if you're that type of person, I'm excited for you, because I can't do that. I know how to, but I just don't have the skill set to really do some fine lines, do it properly. My ADD, everything just kicks in and it just doesn't work. That's why I hire a pro. And when you want to hire a professional, there's certain questions you got to ask, and there's certain questions they don't want you to ask. That's where I come in. I've been in this industry over 3+ decades, and I was a contractor. I was with a family business. I've done television, and I've done radio, home improvement radio, for 20 years. So I share my knowledge and my experience with you, the homeowner. And so that's what I like to do here at Hire It Done. And that's why this show is such a hit. And that's why we're growing so quickly, is because homeowners are like, wow, this is great advice. This is good questions. And of course, we have the companion website, hireitdone.com. If you want to find a pre-screened contractor, if you want to find somebody that is licensed, insured, that we vet, you just go to that website. If you want great content, advice, visit hireitdone.com. All our blogs, our videos, our YouTube, our social media. We're on every social media. Just type in Hire It Done wherever you are, and you can find us. In fact, you can watch the radio show while you're listening if you want, on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. We're live everywhere, including LinkedIn and X. So it's a big show. And we're here to help you, the homeowner. And don't forget, if you have a question, it's also Shout Out Saturday, and you can text us in the studio at 248-927-1985. That's 248-927-1985. Text your questions wherever you're at in the country. And it's also Shout Out Saturday. So if you're a contractor and you want to shout out and you want to let us know what your contracting company name is, what you do, and you're listening this morning, we'll be like, hey, high five to Roost Booster. We want to make sure that you get the shout out, because it's always fun to hear your name. And that's just what we do here. So today, spring is here. Okay. And there's no better time to freshen up your home, and inside and the outside, right? So nobody knows that like our guest today, John Cox of Roost Booster and Prep Right. John, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Adam.
You like that?
Yes.
So John, for the audience, introduce yourself, tell everyone the name of your company and how long you've been a painter and what you do.
Okay, my name is John Cox, and the company is Roost Booster. We are formerly Prep Right Maintenance. We've been in business for 21 years, started as a painting-only company, and have expanded into full remodeling.
That's fabulous. And you've been with Hire It Done now. How many? It's been a while.
20 years.
You're one of my first clients. Yes. You and Taylor Brothers.
That's right.
That's funny. Well, thank you, by the way, for the business. And for everyone out there, 96% of all contractors fail in the first 5 years, just so you know. In fact, this content and these topics are in my new book. The book's coming out in a couple months. It's very hard for me to write a book because I can't sit still, but it's getting there. Anyways, John, being a painter sounds like, oh, it's not that hard to do. That's the easiest industry, in my opinion, for anyone to get into. They can go to a big box store. They can buy some overalls, a drop cloth, a bucket of paint, some brush and rolls, and you become a painter. Isn't that pretty much what it is?
Well, there's a little bit more to it, but yes, it's one of the things that I've seen, since I've been doing this, is that a lot of people think they can paint. There are a lot of people who come to me and tell me that they're painters. When we try people out, we find that probably 1 out of 3 who think they are good painters actually are.
So 30% are actually know what they're doing.
Yes.
Okay, I would buy into that number easily, because I've had homeowners say to me, I don't need a painter. Look at this beautiful job. And I'm looking and I have to bite my tongue. I see drip marks. I see like crazy stuff. And so I'm like, okay, look, at painting is not hard to do. It's just hard to make the craft look great, and that's how it's difficult. But hey, what can I say? So let me ask you this, John. If somebody is gonna hire a painter, what should they be looking for in a painter when they that they have to get some paint work done?
Well, to be honest, it's hard to tell because people who aren't good at painting still think they are. So what I advise people, like I do, I take a 20% deposit from my customers. That with the 20% deposit, you can determine pretty quickly, is this person going to do a good job, or are they going to screw up my house? When a guy asks for 50% up front, you're kind of locked in with him because you've already paid half. You're going to let it play out, and that's usually too late to find out that you didn't hire a good painter.
It makes sense. Makes perfect sense. So you mentioned 50% deposit and things like that. Let's take a typical paint job. Okay. Let's go, because we're still on the inside interior paint right now. The weather's starting to break, so you can do a lot of exterior work in the next upcoming months. But right now, all winter and early spring, most of your work has been interior. Is that correct?
Right, exactly.
So let's use an interior paint job. Homeowner calls you up and says, listen, my kid went back to college. I took his bedroom, made it into a walk-in closet. But before I put all the closet stuff up, I want to paint the room. I want to paint my library and my dining room. And they call you up, or they're getting quotes. Let's just say it's $5,000 paint job. If they work with you, what is the payment schedule for your company?
I take a 20% deposit. So on a $5,000 job, it'd be a $1,000 deposit. That covers our cost for material. And then from that point, no further payment is due until satisfactory completion of the job.
Really?
Yes.
So, okay. And that makes sense. So the homeowner's like, the way you just said it, I'm going to put my homeowner hat on. $5,000 job, $1,000 deposit, makes sense. 20%. The rest at completion. That's a long, to paint the 3 rooms or whatever, probably 3 days worth of work, 4 days worth of work. But you just said something that covers the material. So me being sometimes skeptical, you mean you made $4,000, over the material on me? Well, your 30-year experienced painter doesn't, work for free, right?
Right, exactly. I pay my painters more than most painting companies do, but I get it back in value. These guys know what they're doing. They do it faster. So you get a job that's done quickly, but also correctly.
And that's important. And that's very important. We're talking with John Cox from Roost Booster. He's a painter, been in business over 20 plus years. He's pre-screened by Hire It Done. And if you're thinking about getting paint work, this is a great topic for you to get a pen and paper and take notes with us today. If you have a question, you can always text us in studio, 248-927-1985. We're talking about getting your house painted. And John was saying, the deposit necessary, don't pay 50% down. And it makes sense. I'm a fan of a small deposit and then what I call progress painting or progress payments, excuse me. I would even be okay with $1,000 down. And then when you start painting after prep work, another payment, and then upon completion. So you break it into 3 payments. Clearly, you wouldn't mind that either.
On extended or longer, larger jobs, I do that.
Okay.
Just to keep my money coming in and being able to.
Well, cash flow. You're not the bank.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and that's for everyone out there, just so we're on the same page. The contractor is not the bank, okay? When he's doing work for you, he's using your money. And That's just the way it goes. That's the way it happens. If you don't want him to use your money, and he has to use his own money, then there's a fee and a cost to that. I wouldn't even know where to go with that because I don't even agree with that. But there are contractors who think that it's okay, and they'll be like, yeah, we'll do that. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about paint trends and why, and I want to get John's opinion on this, why prep work of the painting is just as important, if not more important, than the paint itself. My name's Adam Helfman, and this is the Hire It Done Radio Network. We'll be right back.
Elevate the space to fit their lifestyle today.
Makes perfect sense. When you're designing the cabinets for the homeowner or the whole layout of the kitchen, how much time do you spend with a homeowner? I mean, obviously they come to your office, you use computer designs. Do you get down to the point where, like, if they're right-handed or left-handed, where the dishwasher goes? You know, if
100%.
So you ask all those questions.
100%. So we typically, for an initial appointment with a client, we'll give them kind of a worksheet so they can go through and select based off of things that they want to see in the space. We definitely want a pots and pans cabinet. We definitely want a spice pull-out. We definitely want a warming rack or an ice maker, or all these little details that they want to see in the space. And then we start pulling the design together with the details that they know are musts, some are wants, and some are not really important details, right?
So you prioritize that.
Exactly.
That makes perfect sense. So I see, as this kitchen, obviously, it's not functional right now.
Correct.
I thought this viral pressure nozzle was another cleaning scam. 3 months later, I haven't touched my $400 pressure washer once. They're called Aquoxus, and they're nothing like those weak spray nozzles.
And as a homeowner, when you see something like this, or when you're planning a kitchen, is it safe to say that the homeowner should be planning on eating out more?
You should be planning on eating out more. You should be planning on cooking outside. You should be planning, if you have another, luckily this homeowner is blessed to have a basement and another kitchen downstairs to be able to work. But a lot of clients don't. So you have to kind of plan, summertime may be a great time to get remodels done where you could barbecue outside and things like that to kind of conserve. But yeah, your restaurant bill for a couple months is going to go up.
So that's, I guess you should, part of the budget, folks, is knowing that you're going to be eating out more.
Yeah.
DoorDash is probably loving this.
DD.
Right? That's right. So when you prepare a homeowner for a job like this, as we know, look, it's invading their lifestyle, their comfort zone. How much preparation do you need to tell them to make sure that they know, like, the contractors are going this way, we're protecting the floors? It's a construction site.
Yes.
They're still running their life. They're still coming home from work, living their lives, but they wake up to this.
Yeah.
Obviously, in a kitchen, what is about 3-4 months?
Yeah, it's a good amount of time, especially with what we have going on here. It's 3-4, maybe rolling into 5.
If not more,
if
sometimes.
not more, when we're talking about finishing details and punch list items. So it is a lot to prepare for. I don't think any client is really prepared until they get into it.
Right.
But our job is to try to help them, especially when we're working throughout the house, is trying to phase things in. If we can stay out of one area until we need it, then we'll kind of, matriculate the project through the house as needed. But we also have garage space that we're taking up, so clients have to park in the driveway, and it's just things that you don't necessarily think about until you get in the middle of it and you're like, it's snowing and I'm parking in the driveway. It's like, yeah, we got to keep our tools and things like that in the garage. So just little things to keep in mind.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
In fact, another tip for homeowners: when you're planning a project, and understand that you live in your house, you come home, it's called your comfort zone. This is a project right now that I'm visually looking at, is prepared, is got traffic flow, is protecting the house, but it's an invasion of the homeowner's comfort zone.
100%.
You need to be prepared for that mentally and every other way. So kudos to you for protecting the house like this and seeing how it is. I'm excited to see when it's all done, and we'll get the before and after pictures, which are great. So how often do you communicate with the homeowner during a process like this? Is it daily, weekly, or is it depending on the homeowner's needs?
For our clients, that every client gets a weekly update. So they get a recap of what we did last week, what we intend to do next week, and kind of where we think we are, some things to expect. A lot of clients work from home. Our clients here, they work from home a few days out of the week. And so if we're going to be doing electrical and internet's going to be down, we want to try to give them a heads up. If we've got plumbing that's going on and water's going to be off, we want to give them a heads up. So we try to keep them abreast of some of those things, but it's still always a circus depending on.
But that's okay. And again, we always say it Hire Done, and Veronica is really good at this. The key nucleus of successful home improvement is communication. So when you communicate with your homeowners on a regular basis, they always know what's going on. Even if you say to them, hey, we got nobody coming for the next few days. Welcome back. This is Hire Done. My name's Adam Helfman. We're talking everything paint, the good, the bad, the ugly. And we've got John Cox from Roost Booster in studio. And John, welcome back.
Thank you.
So we've been talking about painting and, homeowners painting and stuff like that. But let's talk about the prep work of a paint job. Okay. Would you agree with me? And you're the pro. I just know a lot about it, but how important is prep as it applies to paint in the whole process?
Well, prep is everything. That from the start of the job, making sure that we're cleaning dust, dirt, and debris off of surfaces prior to painting, caulking the areas that need to be caulked so you don't have those real thin, ugly lines between your baseboard and your walls, making sure that holes are patched properly, so when you paint over them, you don't see where that hole was for the rest of your life.
So prep work is just as important as the paint.
It's more important.
It's more important. So
Yes.
like you've got base molding, casing around the doors and windows. You've got shoe molding on the floors. You've got the backs of chairs that in the kitchen that have scraped the wall in the past. Homeowner says to you, oh yeah, in my son's room, he slammed the door open and the handle went right through the drywall. So you've got all this prep work. So spackling, drywall repair, all that is just as important.
Yeah, and it's making sure that it's done right again, because I see so many times where people have hired somebody else in the past to do a repair, and you can always see that square where they patched that hole where the doorknob went through. You can see every place where they spackled nail holes in the walls, and I don't like that. I want to make sure that when we're patching anything that we're taking care of it, and you're not going to be able to tell where that was.
We're speaking with John Cox from Roost Booster. He's a painting contractor for over 20 plus years, and we're talking everything paint. If you have a question this morning, and don't forget it's shout out Saturday. If you're a contractor or a homeowner listening, you want a shout out, we'd love to give it to you. Text us in studio with your questions, 248-927-1985. Again, 248-927-1985. So John, if a homeowner is looking for a painter, and they've already done some drywall repair, do you go out of your way to tell the homeowner, listen, this paint repair, before I paint over this repair that you did is going to show through the paint? And because sometimes the people say, oh, well, look at this, you can see this drywall line or something. How do you proactively handle that?
Well, I let people know that it's important to me that their end product turn out very well. And that's why I don't charge a whole lot for the prep and repair portion of the job, because I get a lot of homeowners who tell me, oh, I'll take care of the repairs before we start. And I just let them know it's not going to be much more, that my guys can take care of all of the repairs in the room, usually in less than an hour, that it only makes sense to have us do everything from start to finish. I don't want to paint over somebody else's repairs if I can't be sure it's going to turn out well.
Okay, well, and that's the sign of a true professional, and I appreciate that. Okay, so the prep work is that important. What about like when you go into a scenario and the homeowners, the house is, they think it's beautiful, but it's like dirty or they've been smoking. You know, you could see like behind the couch against the wall, like the headline. You know, it's got all schmutzy and scutzy and it's gross, right? Do you actually wash the walls and clean it before you apply paint?
So in a lot of cases, if it's staining, not actual removable dust, dirt, and debris, that I will then go into a stain blocking primer just to make sure that whatever the markings are, whether it be nicotine, stains, oils from hair or skin, aren't going to bleed through the paint. And that happens all of the time. So with the good stain blocking primer, we're preventing that from coming through ever again, and then finishing it off with the top coat that's not going to stain.
Okay, and that makes sense. Now, communicating all this to the homeowner, right? You walk the job with the homeowner, you've given them a proposal, and when we follow the hire it done mantra, it's get everything in writing. I tell all the contractors and I tell homeowners, if you're getting a bid from a contractor, have them write the proposal like a story, a beginning, a middle, and an end, right? It's prep work, paint, cleanup, payment. You know what I'm saying? And you do that. And then I tell the homeowners, once you get that from the contractor, and you've been doing this for a long time, so this is pretty much elementary for you, but for everyone out there, I also then tell homeowners, and this is good advice, to give the proposal back to the contractor after you've read it and say, Mr. Contractor, according to Adam Helfman, hire done, he tells me to have you put in writing everything not included. Do you agree with that?
I do agree with that. I think it's important to have that conversation before I take any money from a customer, exactly what they're getting, what they're not getting. I want to make sure that when I send painters to the job, that they know what they're supposed to do, and the homeowner doesn't have any expectation that something is going to be done that is not included.
Okay, and that's good. That's really good advice. Now, homeowner says to you, I was watching HGTV and I saw Ralph Lauren paint. I saw Benjamin Moore bougie. We got Pittsburgh paint, you got Sherwin-Williams, you got Behr. There's a bunch of brands, right? You go to a big box store, they have their own brand, right? Glidden, I've seen them all. In your opinion, as a painter that's a professional and been doing it for several decades, does it make a difference in the brand?
There is a difference, and it's one of the things that I do differently than most of my competitors is I'm not a one-size-fits-all paint company. That I ask questions. How long do you plan to stay in the house? Do you frequently wash your walls? How long has it been since your last paint job? And I can determine based on the look of the current paint job, do they need something that's more durable, or are they okay with a good quality mid-grade paint? So for every job, I don't go in with the assumption I'm just going to use Sherwin-Williams Emerald paint. That I may find that a Scuff-X from Benjamin Moore is more appropriate for them.
Okay. What about like the chalkboard paints? Remember, oh, I have kids. We're going to do a room. I'm going to paint one wall so they can write all over the walls. Does it work?
It does work, and it needs to be put on properly. That if it's just slapped on with a thick plush roller, it's not going to work well. We're going to put it on with a thin mohair roller, make it a nice smooth surface that's easy to wash or erase.
That makes sense. Okay. And then again, how impactful is it when you have a family and you have children, or you have empty nesters? The quality of paint, not quality, but the type of paint you use when you have an active household, kids are sports, running around, infants, I remember when my kid was, he was shooting hockey pucks against the wall, everything. Do you account for that?
Yes, and that's one of the things that I'm looking for. If I walk into a house and we're walking up the stairs, and just like my own daughters who would bring their chair bags into the house, and they'd just be so tired after cheer practice that they had to drag that cheer bag up the wall all the way up the stairs, that Yeah, I'm going to make sure that I suggest a paint that's scuff resistant, washable, or a little more stain resistant. But if I walk into, an older couple's home and it's been 20 years since their last paint job and there's not a mark on the walls, I'm not going to try to sell them a more expensive washable, scrubbable paint.
Okay, that's fair. 248-927-1985. That's the text line. If you have a question about paint, if you have anything for us today, we'd love to hear from you. Again, you can text us 248-927-1985. Always visit hireitdone.com if you want a pre-screen contractor as well. Contractors like John Cox from Roost Booster. So John, let's talk about paint colors that are trending. Right. So you've been doing this 20 plus years. Have you seen ups and downs of paints? Like the white is obviously the 90% of all the colors is white, but there's 75 different versions of white. Right.
Right. So we're seeing a lot of whites and off whites still. I miss the days of the reds and the golds 20 years ago. Those were fun colors.
The Scarface years. Right, Scarface, 80s, or 90s, whatever, right? Say hello. So big name paint companies, Benjamin Moore, their 2026 color of the year, Silhouette AF655. It's a near black color. That would be their color of the year, almost black. Have you painted rooms black before?
Yes, actually, my own home, I got the accent wall going up the stairs in a near black color.
So if a homeowner calls you up and says, listen, I want to do an accent wall, and they ask for your advice or your, because you're trained in color, obviously. Do you refrain from giving advice? Or is it because, it's what you like and what they like could be two different things?
And I always start off the conversation with my suggestions on color are based on my personal preference. And if you don't like it, I'm still going to charge you just as much to repaint it. But if you want my advice on what I'm seeing that looks good, here are the colors that I recommend.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair. So Benjamin Moore's color of the year is almost a black. It's a deep black, actually. Sherwin-Williams teamed up with HGTV, and their color of the year is universal khaki. Okay. So khaki is like a neutral, like a sandy shade. Have you had people ask you to paint something khaki?
Yes, and usually in combination with some whites and off whites.
Okay, and that's fine. I don't mind a khaki. I guess I like cream, coffee cream. I like those colors are starting to, trend towards that a little bit. So maybe I'm off or not, but I don't think it's so bad. And then Benjamin Moore last year, because they don't just do every white every year. Benjamin Moore's last year color, which I wanted to bring, and still very popular, is cinnamon slate. It's a little bit of brown, a little bit of cinnamon, a little bit of plum. It's got a little red in it. Have you ever have you painted these before?
Yes, obviously the color of the year colors of the year are the ones that become more popular. And I do share with customers the Benjamin Moore color of the year charts.
So according to some of the experts, I want your opinion on this too. The overall trending of colors, soft, earthy neutrals, mushroom, clay, grayish, and warm taupe. Do those sound like colors that you are hearing homeowners ask about?
Oh, most definitely. And it's a break for the last several years, too many whites.
Chantilly lace.
Yes, exactly.
All those white colors. I still keep my finger on the pulse for everyone out there on projects and stuff. And I will tell you, obviously, if I do 10 houses, 9 out of 10 are still going to have a version of white. Though once in a while we'll paint a room a one-off color, but definitely I see some changes coming in. But clearly you're doing it every day, so painting is important, and the colors are right.
Right, exactly. You got to make sure that you're going to like the colors not only when we finish, but a couple of years from now. If you don't like them a few years from now, we'll repaint it for you.
Let me ask for you as a pro painting. What advice do you want to give homeowners right now who are listening about paint job? If they're going to hire a painter, what should they be prepared for when they bring a painter into their home before he does the work? Interviewing painters, what questions should they have ready for the painter? And then what do you want them, if you were going to their house, what should they be ready to answer? So it's two sides of the coin.
Right. So most of the time people want to know how long the paint job's going to take. If the paint job's going to take 5 days, they expect to see that, 20% of the project is done after day one, and that's not the way it works. So trust the process that if the painters don't have paint on the wall at the end of day one, that doesn't mean it's not going to be done on time. It means they're taking their time to do the prep properly. And the thing is it's important for homeowners to make sure that they point out areas of concern they have prior to the prep work being completed. There are a lot of times where we finish a room and somebody will point out something that was a previous repair that we didn't catch, that, they might stare at it every single day and it bothers them. But to, the painter who shows up, he says, oh, there's, 6 holes I've got to patch here and I'm going to caulk the trim. He doesn't notice that little bump in the wall that's been bothering the homeowner. So, I advise all of my customers to make sure that if there are things that bother you, point it out to me, but also let's put some tape on it. So when the painters arrive, they know that that's an area they need to work on.
So prepping the homeowner for the job is a smart thing. And I agree with that. So back to the prep work, because you just said, don't expect painting to start day one. Just covering furniture, drop cloths, cleaning the walls before you even caulk anything could be a whole full day's worth of work.
Right, exactly. And that's why when I do get those calls from customers who say, there's no paint on the walls, I came home today and they hadn't even started painting. And I says, well, thank you for letting me know that. That's a relief. I'd be actually pretty upset because I've already factored in 16 hours of prep and repair time to your job. And, there were 2 guys there today for 7 hours. So had they started painting, they'd be in trouble.
Makes sense. So for everyone out there, make sure you understand that a paint job, and by the way, a quality painter, a quality contractor with experience like Roost Booster is going to bring that up to you. Is it safe for me to assume that when you get ready to start the project, you tell the homeowner, listen, day 1 and 2 is prep work. And that may mean we don't even start painting anything. We're just sanding, cleaning, caulking, and prepping and protecting your environment before we even start with the paint.
Right.
Yes?
Yes, exactly. I want to make sure that the homeowners know that. There are a lot of times when, even though I tell people that, they don't quite comprehend it and still call me, but I remind them of what I did tell them, prior to the job starting.
It makes sense. Well, that's good. Okay, so prep work started. Homeowner sees the guys working and is really liking it. And midway through the job, they call you up and say, listen, you guys are great. I'm really excited. I need the rest of this painted. I don't want you guys leaving because I'm just enamored of how good this is. And here's the best part about it for everyone out there. A good painter doesn't have to be the most expensive. And Roost Booster, who's been with me over 20 years, he's never the most expensive, but he's never the cheapest. He's always right in the middle. Would you agree, John, that your pricing falls right dead center usually?
Yes, and I do monitor pricing of my competitors to make sure that I'm not overcharging. But at the same time, I want to make sure that I'm not the cheapest guy, because obviously
Red flags too.
If my guys feel rushed on the job because I need to make a profit, then the job's not going to be done right. So
Quality
I need to make
fails.
sure I price it fairly, but at the same time, I make my numbers based on volume.
Good. And have you seen in the last, let's go post-COVID, from COVID to today, has the labor been the biggest increase or the material been the biggest increase? Give me the 6-7-6-7.
So labor is definitely more expensive, but on a percentage basis, the cost of material has gone up significantly. When I first started in the business, the material was about 15% of the job cost. Now it's more like 25%.
Wow. So labor's still expensive, but materials have gone up, getting it out there. And how about quality materials? You're when you and I do work together, it's usually Sherwin-Williams is the brand we usually end up with, and it's usually Emerald, which is their premium line. Correct. So your opinion of that? Has it gone up in price or quality? How about the quality of it? Has it gotten better? Have you taken ingredients out? Because paint's never been as good since it had lead in it. be honest with me, right? It was so good when it had lead in it, but now,
From a painter's standpoint, paint was a lot better prior to all of the EPA changes. We could cover a lot in one coat, and we passed those savings on to the customer. If I didn't need to charge for 2 coats, that was great. As far as the durability, washability, it's better than it's ever been. And that's one of the
that's
things
science.
people tell me they do not want a flat paint because they've had flat paints in the past and they couldn't wash them. When they tried, they washed the paint off the walls. Well, with today's paint technology, we can do a flat finish even in a bathroom or a kitchen, and it's still going to be washable, stain resistant, and hold up to anything you can throw at it.
When you say washable, give the USA Today version of washable paint. Because when I was a kid, I remember I did some mark on the wall. I'd spray 409 on it and wipe it, and you could see like the white marks. It was a terrible thing.
Right. So there's a difference between scrubbable and washable.
Okay.
That there are a lot of paints that claim to be scrubbable. That doesn't mean you're ever going to get the stain out of it because it's still going to be porous and the stains are going to stay in the paint. The washable paints are the ones that don't allow the staining material to set in. And so all it takes is a damp, wet cloth, wipe the walls down, and the stain's gone.
Oh,
But the reason that I really love flat washables is there are times when you're going to stain a wall, and no matter how good the paint is, that stain's not coming out. Flats touch up.
okay.
Any paint with a sheen is not going to touch up.
Let's really quick talk about since we're talking about flat. Let's do a painting 101. Let's give everyone the definition of a flat, an oil base, a sheen, an eggshell. All the paint finishes, because even to this day, and I've been in this business 3+ decades, when someone says, oh yeah, I want an eggshell finish, or I want a flat, or I want to do an oil base, and I want a sheen, I get all like a little bit of like dyslexia or a little bit of anxiety. I'm like, okay, wait, let me think in my head again. Flat means this, eggshell means that. So let's just go through the different finishes.
Right. So a flat paint has no sheen, no shine back on it whatsoever. You see the actual surface, but also it's the best at hiding imperfections in the wall.
We're on a house, in a room, walls, ceilings, base, casing, moldings. Where would you see flat paint most of the time?
So ceilings for sure should always be flat, or at least almost always be flat. Walls, a lot of people like the look of a sheen on walls, and that's the only time I recommend doing a sheen on walls is if you'd like that look. But if you prefer the look of a flat, go with a washable, scrubbable flat paint on the walls. Trim should be a satin at least. Typically, I try to steer people to a semi-gloss in trim. It just, that difference in sheen makes that trim stand out and look better.
Okay, so sheen, semi-gloss. You just mentioned some comment. Define for the audience what that means.
So a flat, obviously no sheen. Then satin gives you a mid-grade shine kind of between a flat and a semi-gloss. Then you have the semi-gloss and the full gloss. Full gloss is something I only recommend on perfect surfaces and having it sprayed out. There's no reason to ever use a full gloss if you're going to brush and roll or the previous surface is imperfect, because that full sheen is going to show every imperfection in whatever you're painting. So there's that area between a flat and a satin where you got matte, eggshell, velvet finish. So a lot of different names, but really when you're between that flat and the satin, any of those other sheens are going to kind of have that similar lower luster. Just kind of when you look at the wall on an angle, you can see that light sheen.
Okay, so that makes sense. So if a homeowner has like shiny ceilings, and you know that most houses have flat, and you ask them why that is, do you think they'll tell you? They'll know? Or you'd be like, listen, we should really do flat, and it will change the whole perspective and look of everything.
Right, exactly. I tell them a softer reflection off of the ceiling with a flat white paint. Most of the time, people just don't know the difference in sheen when they painted the house themselves. But when we get done with a flat finish on the ceilings, good high-grade flat finish on the walls, and a semi-gloss on the trim, They love the look.
248-927-1985. It's the text line. If you have a question about painting this morning, we've got John Cox from Roost Booster in studio, and we're doing everything paint. We're about to switch gears, though, and talk about exterior paint and rotted wood, small handyman jobs, and small little projects that a lot of homeowners have asked painters to do. And John is one of the contractors that I know who has pivoted over the years to allow his contractors and create the expertise to help with the smaller projects as well as a painter. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, exterior paint and small handyman work with Hire It Done. My name's Adam Helfman. Keep it locked in here on the Hire It Done Radio Network. So like, oh, good. I can catch my breath for a minute.
Yeah.
However, there's also times in the beginning of this interview where Veronica said, we might as well. This job has evolved. How important is it to communicate with homeowners when they keep adding things, or they say, hey, you know what? I want to do this, but let's do the other side of this as well.
Right.
The timeline.
The timeline is something that is very important to communicate. It's probably the number one question that we get, because there's so many horror stories throughout the neighborhoods and construction.
Always.
It's like, oh, these people, they're going to take forever. It's like, yeah, we're thinking this could be 12 weeks. We're thinking this could be 15 weeks. We're thinking this could be whatever. But odds are it's probably going to be more because naturally people they add things to the project, or there's material that gets delayed. There's a problem. There's always things that come up. So for me, I think it's always important just to have a firm that can handle the problems and a firm that can deal with the things that come up and try to see them ahead of time,
So what she just said was so crucial that I want to reiterate that again. Finding a firm that can solve those problems, we call it solution-minded on Hire It Done. And this is why Veronica Simmons is such a great contractor, is because she'll solve the problems as they come up. When homeowners add things, they're like, oh, it's just a little thing. Well, they don't realize the domino effect of that. Is it right for me to even say that?
Correct, 100%. This fireplace here is a perfect example of something that we had to problem solve. We weren't going to do the fireplace when we started the project. And then kind of after everything was sold, the client says, okay, I think I want to do the fireplace. So the way the fireplace is focused around both sides of the kitchen and the family room, we had to troubleshoot what we were going to do with the floor, because the ledger stone is going to come all the way down to the ground. We didn't want it coming from wood to carpet. Right. So we ended up coming up with this really cool inset design, but that took a lot of thought and thinking, and we were going back and forth trying to figure out the best solution. So it takes time on design and time on actual implementation.
So here we are up the new master bathroom, which is another add-on to the bigger project. Yeah. And so that's one of those situations where we've talked about earlier, we might as well. In this situation, because this homeowner knew they had an A-plus contractor, that they said, you know what, while you're here, the dust and everything's already here, let's get it going and let's do the master bathroom. So Veronica, explain to the viewers exactly what we did in here.
Sure. So while downstairs, in the kitchen, the footprint really remained the same. Up here, the clients really wanted everything to change. So what we're looking at a vanity where a shower was. We used to have a jetted tub over in the corner over here that now is part of a massive shower, wet room kind of combination. We've extended the vanity. We've got massive glass coming in here. So there's a lot of really cool features that this really wants to be a sanctuary for our clients. And that's what a lot of people are asking for, is spa, sanctuary. I want zen, I want hospitality. I want it to feel like when I come home, I can relax.
Interesting comment you just made, and I'm going to refer back to a recent podcast that you and I were on. And you have homeowners who travel. They go to a beautiful bougie hotel, and then they come home to their old bathroom. Yeah. Why not make the spa environment? Yeah. Why not have it done to the way you want it?
Exactly.
And you have the luxury to do that, and they have you to bring it to life.
Yeah.
I cannot wait to see how this is going to be finished.
It's going to be great. It's going to be great. We've got quartzite bench. We've got quartz countertops coming in, glass tile that extends all the way through the wall. We've got body sprays in the tower. It's going to be fun.
Even the ceiling detail, I noticed, and the way the floor's tiled, everything here is intermeshed.
Yeah.
And it works. It's got a great flow.
Yeah, it'll be a fun space. I can't wait for you to see it.
I thought I was too old for elastic pants until I found these. The comfort, the freedom, it was like wearing air.
I thought mobility loss was part of aging until my wife got me these pants.
These will become your new favorite pants.
Thinner than paper, but durable through more than 1,000 washes. Forget maintenance. No ironing, no wrinkles, no stress. Just flawless look and lightweight feel that flows with every move. 2 custom fit options with elastic waist, 4 deep zipper pockets, secured and waterproof.
So Veronica, on a full master bathroom remodel, and this had a different design, it had a different layout, you gutted this to the studs and you're starting fresh with a brand new design. What can a homeowner expect in a timeline? Like, how long should a job like this take, assuming, and there's the assumption, they know how to make the decision.
Sure.
Forget about delays in product, but what are we talking timeline-wise?
So we think at a minimum, this is a 12-week project.
Welcome back. This is Higher Done. My name's Adam Helfman. And did you know with a whole house system, there's no need to maintain multiple filters or worry about whether a single faucet is protected coming out of your house for water. Every outlet in your home provides clean filtered water consistently. That's right, my friends. If you want clean water, put a whole house filter in. We have great companies that do that. Obviously, Beauchamp Water Treatment Solutions is the best. And they will make sure that you have clean water coming through your house. The convenience ensures that everyone in your household benefits from the high quality of the water, whether they're drinking with it, cooking with it, or even bathing in it. Don't put it off any longer. Go visit highertdone.com and visit Beauchamp Water, because if you have well water, you have city water, whatever it is, the water coming to your body, coming out of the faucets, needs to be clean, needs to be filtered the Beauchamp way. That's what I need you to do. Just visit highertdone.com and we'll be fine. Anyways, John Cox, Roost Booster in studio, professional painter over 2 decades from Higher Done. We've been talking paint jobs. We've been talking the different types of paint, sheen, flat, oil-based, things like that. But we're now into the trends and moving outdoors. And the best time to paint outdoors is now, or get planned to start now. Would you agree?
Right, exactly. Get on the schedule early.
You're busy already?
Yeah, we've got quite a few exterior projects already booked. We haven't started yet. I've seen a lot of exterior painters already out there for the season, and it doesn't make sense to me to start putting exterior paint on knowing that next week we're going to have freezing temperatures.
Right. It's too unpredictable, the temperatures, and you really can't do exterior paint when it's below 40, 50 degrees.
Right, exactly. So my threshold is no overnight temperatures below 40 degrees. I don't want brand new paint freezing.
Okay, and that makes sense, because obviously paint is a high moisture content, and if an exterior and if the extreme temperature changes can affect the quality of the paint.
Right.
Which makes sense. So, in my opinion, you're doing a lot of exterior work, obviously, in the better weather, but you come across rotted wood. You come across where you're painting the exterior of a house, it's a wood, obviously, or whatever you're painting, and then the soffits or the fascia behind the gutters and stuff. When you guys are painting, how do you address to the homeowner before the job starts, during the job, and after the job, when you discover wood that needs to be fixed or repaired before you paint over it?
It's something I address with every exterior project, that I can only gauge so much walking around doing an inspection of what I think we're going to need to do wood replacement wise. Obviously, the areas where you have holes rotting through the boards or wood puckering are pretty easy to spot. But when we're doing the prep work on an exterior, we're doing a full inspection of the wood. And my guys are instructed to not paint over any rotted, damaged wood. That we want to make sure that when we do a paint job 10 years from now, that house still looks great.
So when you have a piece of wood that's rotted, homeowners like, oh, I didn't know it was hidden behind the gutter. You have to take the gutters off. You have to take that piece of rotted wood off. Now, let's say it's 3-4 feet of fascia that's rotted. Do you take a 6-8 foot piece? Do you make sure that it's secured properly? Then you have to repaint that. I mean, there's a process.
Right, exactly. So my preference is to remove the gutter, replace the full board, because if part of the board is rotting, chances are that the rest of the board is also going to be rotting too. It doesn't make sense to try to just piece that out. And that's why I also offer gutter replacement, because I see so many times where people call me after they've had their gutters replaced. The gutter company came in, might have replaced a 1-foot section of an actual rotted board, but put gutters over other fascia board that should have been replaced. And it makes no sense. What makes sense is to put that board on there, to paint it properly behind the gutter, make sure it's protected, then put the gutters on top. And we can do full gutter replacement or just partial gutter replacement. I rarely recommend to a customer that we take their existing gutter off and put that same gutter back on, since 90% of gutter replacement cost is in the labor, not in the material. It just makes sense to put a new gutter in that spot and make sure that it's pitched properly, that it's stuck on, and it's going to last.
Okay, so that leads me to my next my next question, and it segues into how you've evolved. You've been a painting contractor, but homeowners say to you, "Hey, since your guy's here, you can replace this and replace that." You've evolved into small projects, a little bit bigger than handyman, what I would call it, like a deck, siding, a small kitchen paint job, maybe even a bathroom.
Right, exactly. So 21 years ago, I started out as an interior painting company, and I had guys that could repair drywall and paint, but I needed people who could also replace baseboard, because there are so many times where somebody wants new baseboard before they paint, or they want to add crown molding to a room. So of course, I had to make sure I had good, high quality carpenters. Once I had good, high quality carpenters, then we could offer more work. But at the same time, when we started doing exterior painting, I needed to make sure that we could address all of the areas of concern. There's nothing worse than a painter showing up and saying, "Hey, call somebody else to do the repairs, and when they finish the repairs, we'll come and paint." We're going to come in, we're going to look at what needs to be done, give a good estimate on the amount of labor and material that's required to repair that rotted wood on the outside of the house. But then that also leads into, we have siding that's rotted. So now I have siding guys that can side a whole house. So it just all evolves, because once I need something for a little thing, then I can also offer the big thing.
Okay. And you know what? That's great advice. And it's great to see how you've evolved. You either lead, follow, or get out of the way, right? The contractors I attract to and the ones that I migrate towards are the ones that lead, right? Because that's what we do at Hard Turn. We lead the industry in finding the best contractors for hassle-free home improvement. And I look for the guys who are solution-minded, the ones that say, "Hey, homeowners are asking me for this all the time. You know what? I'm going to start doing this." And so it makes sense. So I appreciate that. And that's really something that makes sense to me. So let's talk about moving forward. What is the biggest request you're getting right now from homeowners who know that you're a quality painter, know that you do really good work, and you're a licensed contractor to do other work? What are you seeing on houses? Decks, gutters? Let's start outside. What are you seeing a lot of requests for?
So a lot of times people have older decks that are in need of repair. I don't just come out and say, "Hey, we're going to, charge you $2,000 to repair this deck." That I'm going to inspect the deck and make sure that it's sound and it makes sense to repair that deck. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to put any more money into an old, rotting, wobbly deck. And so we can help with that. Same thing with, somebody has old T111 siding, and 90% of T111 is rotting out. Well, maybe we should cover that with something else. Maybe we should look at a different product. Or is this something that we can save? And I've got great primers that will make that T111 last and look good 20 years from now.
Okay. And you know what? That's fine. That's what makes the difference between a good contractor and someone who's like, oh, I'll just, as homeowners ask, I'll do whatever they want. You have a plan, you're focused, and you'll say one of the things I like about your company is you're not afraid to say no.
Right, exactly. I will not take a job if I'm not 100% sure we're going to do it the right way. There are times when people say, well, can't you try? It's like, no, I'm not going to try, because if I fail, then I look bad. You're unhappy and you've got to pay somebody else to do it.
Are there any trends that you see for exterior colors and exterior paint in the past year or so?
Well, darker colors are definitely popular on exteriors now. And it's actually one of my favorite transformations when we take that, old colonial house that's white and brown, and then put a nice black or near black and gray on there. And it's just such an amazing transformation. Those are the houses when we paint that we get a lot of calls from neighbors on to paint their house.
Here, I had put together some tips for exterior paint. I'm going to throw them out to you as pretending like I'm a professional painter. You tell me, yes, that's a good tip or not. Okay. So for exterior paint, a pro tip would be paint the trim and doors first, then the walls. Always work top to bottom to catch drips. Yes or no?
Well, it's not necessarily a top to bottom thing. But as far as interior painting goes, yes, paint the ceiling first, paint the trim and doors second, and then frame in the walls to the trim in the ceiling. That's going to be your best look.
Okay, so that makes good sense. Flat finishes work well on older homes. Semi-gloss is ideal for trim and doors for weather resistance and durability. Yes? No?
Yes, absolutely. Again, flat paint on walls is going to conceal all of those old repairs, scars, and imperfections. Drywall's naturally imperfect. You're going to be able to see some tape line, some seam in that drywall. It's rare that drywall is 100% perfect, and the flat paint forgives those mistakes.
What about homeowners with older homes and they're worried about lead paint? Pre-1978, I believe it was, that's when lead got taken out of paint. But sanding, aerosolizing the paint, prepping it, you're never supposed to do that, right?
Right, exactly. You don't want to do it without proper PPE or lead certification.
Are you working with lead certified painters?
We don't do lead certified work.
Okay, you just let it handle the professional. Let them
right,
handle
exactly. That we do not do any lead remediation, although we do oftentimes prime over lead paint with that really bitter tasting primer. So,
yeah.
When you're using it, don't drink it.
Real quickly, as we wrap up here, outlook for 2026. You think it's gonna be a good year?
Yes, I do. I think that a lot of people put off, especially exterior painting last year, uncertain about the economy, but exterior painting is something you can't put off.
Yeah, obviously it affects the value of your home. Well, that's good stuff. John Cox from Roost Booster. Visit hireitdone.com if you want a really quality painter. And don't forget, if you have any questions or anything, you can always find us at hireitdone.com. Click on Ask Adam. Follow us on YouTube, all our social medias. We're all there. And I want to thank you for tuning in today. I'm very grateful for the listeners. We're here every Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And I want to let you know that this is all about getting hassle-free home improvement. My name's Adam Helfman, and this is Hire It Done on the Hire It Done Radio Network.